voluntary turnover. Somebody resigns. It leaves a hole in the organization. And on top of that, a lot of times the people that resign and go off to greener pastures, so to speak, on another job, you may have lost a good employee to a competitor. You may have lost somebody who was very productive in your organization. Sometimes they retire unexpectedly as you go through for personal reasons outside the organization. Sometimes the reasons are inside the organization. Whatever, you have a hole as you go through. If they're highly valued, try to prevent them from leaving. Don't stand in front of the doorway and try to stop them for sakes, except for the fact that you may want to sit down and say, listen, is there anything I can do to sit down there and keep you here? We want you here. Okay, so let's talk. Sometimes it's a negotiation. You can keep it private. You can put it in writing to keep it private as you go through. Drivers for retention, a lot of times is pay and job security. You know what? They let so-and-so go. Now, by the way, this is a byproduct of termination. Why you want to try to avoid that if you can. So-and-so was let go, and I don't know what my future is like. Am I secure? People will have those kind of questions as you go through. Benefits, I have a problem with my insurance as you go through, or this over here. You know what? If I had a country club membership, I'd stay. And sometimes it's worth it as you go through. But a fun and collaborative work environment. Good night. If it's necessary, go out and make free Skittles available as you go through, and coffee, all they can drink to make sure they stay awake all night long thinking about work. So that being said, provide immediate feedback as you go through, or provide opportunities for development. I've been here for 7 years and I've gotten one promotion in 7 years. You know what? Let's put you on a management development program to sit down there and beef up your career, and we'll look instead of getting you ready for that next level. There's a lot of different retentions you can do to keep them in there, but you got to think about it. You have to pause, try to get them to pause as well before they leave as you go through. A lot of times you're going to see as somebody starts withdrawing from the organization, they want to cut off the behavior because they're going to lose personal connections as they go through. You'll see a behavioral change as you go through. It can lead to supervisor-subordinate confrontation. People back off from that. Nobody likes confrontation. If those people that do, sometimes you don't want them in your organization as you go through. It could be they're whistleblowing on somebody, and often whistleblowers really get a scandal on them. One time I had a child care worker. She witnessed another child care worker slap a child. Now, the kid wasn't very nice, but that being said, it's not a basis to slap a child in the face as you go through. She turned that person in, and all the other child care workers looked at her with suspicion, and they made her an outcast out there and made her uncomfortable. I eventually transferred her to a different position, but she was 100% correct to report it, but it didn't change the fact that everybody felt sorry for the person that slapped it because they were terminated immediately as you went through based upon that confrontation. So that being said, that person became branded as a whistleblower. Whistleblowers often sit down and they're punished by the peers in the organization, sometimes unrighteously as you go through. So sometimes there's a physical job withdrawal. You sit down there, they get transferred out of a job as you go through. They quit. They're absent from the work. They get tired of coming to work. You see them missing Mondays as you go through, or Friday. Sometimes it's psychological. There's a withdrawal. There's a low level of involvement. They kind of disconnect from it. Those things are indications that you may have a dissatisfied employee, and sometimes you may have to sit down there and intervene as you go through. Here's actually the same thing in writing that we saw over here in a chart format. You'll see the aspect of just withdrawing from it. People back up. They don't want to be involved. They don't want to go to social activities and everything else. And you, as a supervisor, you need to engage them as you go through. If it's human resources and you're in charge of training and development, try to teach supervisors this. Make certain that you see different behaviors of employee withdrawal, that you sit down there and you're proactive in helping them to find the reasons why, and that try to get them to stay in the aspect of, if they're valuable, make certain you're engaging and listening to their needs, that you're going to meet them in the workplace as best you possibly can. Job satisfaction, a lot of times, it's a function of values. There are people that believe in what you're doing as you go through. My field is education. There really is something inside of me that really likes the aspect of what I do and help them build people up as you go through. There's something satisfying about that, to the point that I will even overlook organizational problems because there's a certain joy in that activity as you go through. You may have a job that you just love the work itself, but you start getting distance because of the organization or the people around you as you go through. Find that thing as to where that employee is at. Sometimes there's different views on values that are important. You may get a new boss, you may get a new CEO, and all of a sudden you have different activities, and you're concerned about what you're seeing as an organization as you go in the process. So that being said, maybe you want to change, and maybe this is not the place that you thought it was once upon a time. That perception really is a frame of reference as you go through. I was over here and the organization is here. So sometimes you want to sit down and maybe withdraw because maybe this isn't a place for you. Or maybe when you first got the job, it was great, but now you're past that pay level over here. You're looking for more money as you go through. I've seen before unsafe working conditions as you go through. This is a big deal. And a lot of it, if it violates law, needs to be corrected as you go through. The people that will be held accountable, once again, those HR people, it's an unsafe working condition and you are responsible because you're an HR. Well, actually, the supervisor probably is more responsible, but if you see an unsafe working condition and somebody gets injured on that, HR will be sucked into the whole process. And if there's a formal investigation from a government agency, guess what you're going to be doing? So if you see an unsafe working condition, respond to it. I always recommend ask your liability insurance company to do an annual inspection of all your grounds and everything else. Believe it or not, even though it's part of a contractual rate you often have, those things really do help with an outside party going through looking for liabilities because they want to avoid a payout. And by the way, so do you as you go through and make certain employees are safe as you go through. One time I was in a college and we had a problem. I had 19 repetitive motion syndrome cases in 1 year. I went through and I thought, okay, I need to do something over here. So I overruled, I had one supervisor said, no, we shouldn't do it. I brought in somebody that specializes in ergonomics and we had a training session about it. And then we did an inspection. Some of them were actually reasons they said there. One gal, she had boxes stuffed underneath her desk where her knees normally went. And she was typing, her body was facing this way. She was typing this way all the time. Well, gee, do you think her neck hurt? Why did her neck hurt? Oh, because she wasn't paying attention to what was going on. She used the space under her desk as a storage space instead of a place for her knees. We had somebody with their screen or monitor too high, and they're always looking back like this. Their neck was crooked. Another one had it too low. We went through and corrected that. Within 1 year of the 19 of them, we had 17 resolved, and only 2 of them needed to have any additional action. We just did some workplace recalibration, and it worked. Pay attention to unsafe working conditions. If you see something going on, do something about it as you go through. Sometimes people, they have negative perceptions. I had an employee one time, she's always bubbly first thing in the morning. She came by, my administrative assistant, who's always a grumpy person in the morning. Hi there. And so she says, and she growled, but she growled all the time. So one day she came to me and she's in tears because Shirley was mean again today. So I brought Shirley in the office, I brought her in the office, and I said, you know what? We talked about personal motivation and personal discussion of problems between each other. Here, she has something to say to you. And I walked out and made them both talk to each other. Best thing I ever did. They got along great after that because that negative affect and that super sensitive affect, they needed to come together and have that dialogue. They did. We had a much better workplace with that personal discussion. That negativity can sit down there and drag people down. Address it. Don't let it go unchecked as you go through. Here are some other things. Sometimes you're on the job, you get bored out of your mind by doing the same thing day in, day out. Do something about it. Rotate the jobs. Do something more. Let them do more of the work as you go through. Let them see the beginning of a process or the end of a process if they're stuck doing one middle process as you go through. Have some flexibility. Nowadays, we pay a lot of attention to people being able to work from home X number of days a week as you go through. So put people on task, make certain you're paying attention as to sources of the dissatisfaction. Try to sit down and pay attention to that as you go through. Recently, the Wall Street Journal published an article about people praising each other, peers praising each other. One guy, he said 1 year he spent over 4,000 praises to coworkers. Everybody loved him because he was praising people, finding bizarre ways to praise him as you go through. That being said, that really helps an awful lot, help people to uplift each other as a team as you go through. Try to eliminate job dissatisfaction, but no matter what, it's still called work. It's not called fun, it's still called work. You got to get the work done, but try to make the workplace an enjoyable place as best you possibly can. If there's abuse by coworkers going on, you need to step up to it. If you see a supervisor is not, that supervisor needs to go through and deal with that, because workplace bullying, everybody should feel safe to come into work, and the bully should be throttled back. HR needs to step up if that's the case sometimes, but really HR needs to step up with the supervisor for the supervisor to do their job in the process as you go through. Always foster team building, get people to work together, make certain you have solid pay and benefits that are competitive as you go through. Sometimes this aspect of pay isn't so much the money as an indicator of self-worth in the person as you go through. So consider it, make certain your pay levels are relative to the market out there as well. If you have this job done in your place and a similar job is over here, make certain your compensation is appropriate and your benefit levels as you go through. Sometimes people don't realize how much is spent on benefits. Up to 40% of the salary is common to be spent on benefits. Make certain that you advertise what good benefits you get as you go through. Measuring job satisfaction, you can do it by having workers sit down and have a suggestion box. You can have part of their annual evaluation, have them self-report concerns they may have and everything else, and read them as you go through. There's another thing called job description index or pay satisfaction questionnaire you can have sent out by a third party as you go through, or even a pulse survey to see, number one, if they have a pulse or they're bored out of their minds, or what's going on in the organization. Employee surveys, people like them. Even if they don't respond to them, they like the fact that their opinion is being looked at and that they are being listened to. That's a big deal. You want to allow the company to monitor trends over the times, see what big picture wise is happening, allow it to compare itself to others in the same industry and different dimensions, and uncover systemic concerns as you go through. Voluntary turnover, often you lose your best employees first, and that's always a problem. Retention factors could be pay, job security benefits, or fun, okay, collaborative work environment, immediate feedback, and opportunities for development. Make them available, and you may reduce your retention, but in the meantime, make certain those that you don't want to keep around are gone too, that may improve your workplace. Take care.